One interesting thing about film and tourism is that both can act as avenues for pleasure, business and education, hence generally impacting society, each in its own right. And today, we explore film tourism. Now, a quick search on Google defines film tourism or film-induced tourism as a specialized form of tourism where visitors explore locations and destinations which have become popular due to their appearance in films and television series. And today, we explore film tourism in Uganda. Today, as the Uganda film industry is still in the mood of celebrating the 8th edition of the Uganda Film Festival, we would want to find out what role has the Ugandan film played to promote Uganda as a tourism destination.
So every time Uganda is portrayed on screen through film, there are those people who are going to get attracted.
Has the film industry done enough to promote destination Uganda for tourism?
The role film has played is massive, as well as what tourism has done is massive for film.
If not, what has failed?
We don't have a policy or act that establishes film in the policies of Uganda.
Has the government played its part here to promote both sectors?
Don't get me wrong. With all due respect to the government has always promoted this whole thing about infrastructure.
And also, we would want to find out the role of Uganda Tourism Board in this whole thing.
The role of Uganda Tourism Board can be spread up across the three aspects of filmmaking. So from a pre-production perspective, they could create a conducive environment.
Welcome to the show. My name is Sebugenyi Blackline. On this channel, Give Me a Visit, we do hotel tours, restaurant tours, plus we explore and adventure the Pearl, bringing you all these different tourism sites, helping you to find out why Uganda is a highly ranked tourism destination. We talk everything tourism and hospitality. If it is your first time here, please endeavor to subscribe and do not forget to hit the notification bell to be notified about all these videos that are going to keep on coming. Also, follow us on Instagram at Give Me a Visit, not forgetting like our Facebook page, that is Give Me a Visit. Worldwide, Uganda as a country has for many years been a highly ranked tourism destination, with the most recent ranking in 2019 by the National Geographic magazine, which named Uganda one of the top 4 cool travel destinations in Africa and 16th in the world. The inception of film in Uganda can be seen in the late 80s and early 90s. However, the mid-2000s saw the rebirth of Ugandan cinema, commonly known as China Uganda, or sometimes Ugawood. But 16 years later, the industry is still steadily growing. This can be attributed to a number of factors, some among the film fraternity itself, and others are policy-related. However, today, we look at the role played by Ugandan film to promote Uganda as a tourism destination. Ronnie Nkalubo, a Ugandan filmmaker and also the President Uganda Film Council, says film has played such a tremendous role to promote and market Uganda to the world.
I think the role film has played is massive, as well as what tourism has done is massive for film. I think 1991 we had Miranaya do Mississippi Masala. It's a film, it features Michael Wauyo Sr. And just a mere say of this film was shot in Uganda and everything has attracted a bit of people. And the bits of people who come are coming because of places, because of people, because of dressing, because of the cultures. We very well know that Uganda is one of the most diverse countries in the world.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. And there's a film of mine where I talk about, you see, America has power, the Arabs have oil, China has people. And then when I go and walk into people who are in the tourism industry, I tell them, you know what, guys? We have culture, we are diverse. I mean, where else would you find this? Where else would you find this? So the only way you can portray this and then it gets to people is through film. There's a film director who came and made a film in 2014. It's called Aidan Berize. He's a director. The movie is called The Road We Travel.
Right.
I remember when he came for the film, where we were staying, while he was making the film.
Alright.
He realized that there's a lot of street food in Uganda. Like you can literally have anything for actually $1 or even less.
Yes.
I think one of the things that enticed him most was like the Rolex, was fries. I mean, we have commonly known as
Chikalai.
Chikalai.
Very
You know, Chikalai goes for as low as 2,000 shillings.
Very true.
And the person will tell you that, come on, if I do this at McDo, it's unbelievable. Like the price is unbelievable.
No doubt.
When we were making that film, I mean, they ended up even doing a TV show. And every other time, people who have actually come for different things, maybe for honeymoon, maybe for any other thing, tourists, somehow they have got attracted and they have actually ended up making film. I happen to be part of a crew that made a film which has been out actually this year, 2021. It's called Imperial Blue. It has now already premiered in the UK and in the USA.
Right.
It's premiering in Uganda soonest. And the producers of this film are from the UK. They have been in Uganda for some time, but the attractions of our way of life, our dressing, our so many other things have actually ended up making them even make film. So while we portray film and then people have come and they have ended up trying to show the other people who are on the other side of the world about Uganda. Because I mean, through the lens is more like time travel. You get across so many things.
Yep.
The Nile, the Chigezi. I mean, the greatest things we have around here. In my film August, we shot it on location in Fort Portal. You realize that almost in just a very small space, they have about 12 craters.
I mean, Fort Portal itself is a tourism city, so I can imagine.
What Fort Portal has done to film is massive. I have shot a film there.
Wow.
I know about 3, 4, 5 companies. Even with one film, you realize that people are asking you, where is that place? Where is that place? So people continue to flock in. In my film, there is an American actress. She's called Emily Chase.
All right.
I mean, one of the things that attracted her when we started discussing the script,
Okay.
she was like, how are you going to make this in a studio? I said, come on, in Uganda, it's not about the studio. We have the things there. In the very first Uganda film,
she thought you were going to virtually edit this thing, like, you know?
it's the beauty when you are writing, when you are in Uganda. You have seen these things.
All right.
So when I'm writing, I no longer write outside the box or even within the box.
You do real stuff.
In Uganda, I write without the box because I know if I want water, I know where the water is. If I want a mountain, I know where it is. If I want hot springs, I know where to find them. There's a very strong film that is working so well in the Uganda Film Festival this year. It's called Stain. I mean, it shows you the beauty of Lake Katwe. I mean, it is not in so many countries that you can find wet, beautiful places, dry, beautiful places, the Karamoja and everything. I mean, we almost have everything.
Very true.
We don't need magic to make rain. People will tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just get ready. It's going to come in a bit.
It's going to come in a bit.
And our cultures have taught us so well that you can tell the times. I mean, we've grown up in homes where people will tell you that, you know, it's rain, it's going to rain, and it actually does.
Actually rain.
So the magic in the African indigenous knowledge has attracted so many people. I took time off and I was visiting the side of Mubende Tanda.
Okay.
I mean, it's magical. It's the drums are sounding. They are there. It's real.
It's real. The stories we hear.
The stories here are real.
Have a real feel
I mean, if you are in Hollywood, you must fake everything. If you want life and reality, come to Uganda. There's one of the most beautiful shots in Black Panther.
Black Panther, yeah.
In the movie Black Panther is actually shot in Uganda. It's a shot of Lake Bunyonyi.
Wow.
I mean, you only see that in animations.
Wow.
You never think it's real. So God has made Uganda so well that we need to show it to the world.
Very true.
And the more we show it to the world, the more the world will want to come and feel it and experience. It's not every day that you come across such beauty. It's not every day that when you want to come to Uganda, you don't have to wait for a season. In every season, there is something which is so
Something
much
beautiful about
interesting,
it, very true.
something beautiful about it. So that's how much tourism is helping film in a way that it has provided a natural studio for the film industry.
Very true.
And the film industry has provided tourism so much that
It's attractive.
they can easily attract people, places, and everything so easily.
On the contrary, Moses Serugo, a Ugandan film critic and former arts journalist, thinks Ugandan film has that much power to promote Destination Uganda for tourism, but has not really achieved so.
To put into perspective, aspects like Middle Earth. If you watched Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings was shot in New Zealand. So if you watch, especially the first Lord of the Rings film, when the camera pans onto that, sort of landscape, the so-called Middle Earth, it's mythical because film is mostly make-believe. But then you get to learn that that particular scene was shot in New Zealand, because they don't say New Zealand in the film, they call it Middle Earth. And then you get to learn that that scene was shot in New Zealand and you want to visit the place. Same thing with Game of Thrones. Bits of Game of Thrones, there's a certain season of Game of Thrones that was shot in Ireland. You want to go and visit Ireland. So we then come to Uganda. Wakanda. A scene in that film is actually Lake Bunyonyi. How much of that, in regards to Uganda Tourism Board, has been, used to bait tourism to Uganda, and specifically to Kabale or to Chigezi or to Lake Bunyonyi? Because Black Panther was all the rage. It was one of those Marvel, Studios films that actually put black characters at the fore. But we have Lake Bunyonyi there. I don't know how many seconds that scene lasts, but if you took a picture of that, it's actually on one of our banknotes, probably present or past. If you took that scene and you told people that this is Lake Bunyonyi and this is Wakanda, yes, this is Wakanda, this is the Wakanda place in the Black Panther movie, and with all the news about Chadwick Boseman, passing away, but then the fact that Daniel Kaluuya was one of our own, British Ugandan still our own Daniel Kaluuya was in the movie. How much of that have you have you leveraged on to attract tourism here? But because when I was at the Queen of Katwe press junket, there was all this talk about a chess champion, a chess tournament, that would encourage young people into the whole critical thinking thing, preservation of the community center where Fiona Mutesi honed her chess playing craft before she met Garry Kasparov, a chess master in his own right. The whole thing about Last King of Scotland being shot here, how much of that have you leveraged upon? There are films like The African Queen, shot in 1951, partly in Uganda, partly in Congo. It features Murchison Falls. How much of that have you leveraged on to attract tourism here, or even to think about a reboot of that film? Because right about now, there's a reboot of Death on the Nile that has been done. I think I first watched Death on the Nile in the 80s or in the late 80s or early 90s. I've been around that long, So are you thinking about an African Queen reboot? For example, there are other aspects like the fact that Ernest Hemingway, one of the most famed American writers, novelist, journalist, and all that, recuperated at Masindi Hotel, one of the oldest hotels in Uganda. When he got a plane accident here, he was flying actually over, Murchison Falls, Butiaba Port and all that kind of thing. Have you thought about collaborating with the US Embassy and thinking about adapting one of his novels into a film, or just doing the Ernest Hemingway story, of him being in Uganda, or adapting the great wealth of literary, of literature, of written literature that we have, and adapting it into film. I think with the Americans, knowing well that we have one of the most visible awards at the Oscars being the adapted screenplay. Are you thinking about that?
In the year 2018, the movie 7 Days in Entebbe, an action thriller film inspired by the true events of the 1976 counter-terrorist hostage rescue operation in Entebbe, couldn't be filmed in Uganda, forcing its producers to shoot it in Malta. And according to Ronnie, this was quite unfortunate.
Very sorry about that. I am not apologizing on behalf of government. I'm not government. But it's so unfortunate. But what do we take from it? I'm a kind of person who really loves positive energy. Okay, yes, 7 days in Entebbe has gone. What do we do next? What we can do is, I'm lucky I've been part of international co-productions or international films that have been made here. From way back when I was in school, I featured in a scene in Last King of Scotland. I remember they picked us from school with Osman Matovu Makubage. We actually all ended up in film. I think because of the feel as extras. It was a scene done at Mulago. That scene when Amin is coming in to see the wife. Yeah, that scene that has so many people. But being part of such projects has made me learn. I've went ahead and been part of a couple of others, including Queen of Katwe. I realized and was asking myself, why don't we have so many of those every other time? Every other year we have about 4, 5, 6 of them.
Now, basing on an earlier argument by Moses, it is quite evident that something is lacking here. But what has actually failed? Is it an issue with the government or the film fraternity itself? Ronnie further explains.
Yeah, but Miriam and I can't be making a film every year in Uganda. I will give reasons why. One of them, we don't have a policy or act that establishes film in the policies of Uganda. So we need to actually have a film policy. We need to bring on board MPs, legislators, every other people to bring a film bill so that we can actually establish film in Uganda as film. So when they establish it, it will come with regulations. In countries where these opportunities are massive, is because they have established film in the laws and in the policies. What will entail in these policies? Why Malta? Why Michael Wauyo, when they were making a film, White Light, Silent Army, they were shooting in Uganda. But now they had to change because of policy and every other thing. He had to drive a car because they needed to use it up to South Africa. Now why they had to go to South Africa is because they have better film regulations. Some of these things include tax rebates. For example, if I bring Queen of Katwe is about $15 million. If I bring $15 million into your economy, people know when you talk about tax returns and everything, I have invested this money, I need to get this money back. We don't have that here yet. Now that is one of them. We don't have such incentives. So the other incentives that we lack, one is that tax rebate. Someone needs to invest and then get a chunk of the money back. Industry, the film industry of Uganda has been split and they lack a sense of patronage within the ministries. For example, if you were to make a film in Uganda, you will end up like you have to deal with the Film Classification Secretariat. It is under the Ministry of Information. They are on Communications House. There is a Film Secretariat. It was established 2015. You need to deal with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development because film is a culture tool. It entails so many other things. So they will have to deal with you. You need to deal with Uganda Communications Commission. Because they end up regulating film, so you cannot exhibit the film, so you need to talk to them. And now you find that when you have to shoot in places and so many other things, you need to deal with the local government. For example, it doesn't mean that when you go to the Media Council Secretariat and get accreditation as that you're going to make a film, you won't have to go to KCCA for them to tell you, "Oh, now you can shoot." So you already have a film license, accreditation, as a foreign filmmaker, for example, has come for co-production. But then KCCA guys will come and then drag you to their court, which works express, and then Media Council will come and they'll have to pick you from Luzira, which is quite hectic. There is the local production house that was working on Queen of Katwe, Talking Films, has had to go through all this hassle of trying to educate, of trying to empower, of trying to tell these guys.
Now, despite all the government's efforts to promote Uganda as the preferred tourism destination in Africa and all its good intentions for Uganda's tourism, just like Ronnie, Moses thinks that so much is still lacking, and yet equally enormous results can be achieved in film tourism if the government only plays its role right.
To government's credit, I would say they have good intentions, because when they tell me that Uganda is one of few countries, or the only country where you will find ice at the equator, by way of the snow-capped Rwenzori ranges, I'll give them credit to that. When they say 53% or I hear 80% of mountain gorillas are prevalent in Uganda, in as much as I think countries like Rwanda are doing a better job in regards to taking advantage of the fact that they have mountain gorillas, because there's something about Rwanda. They have this Kwitazina gorilla naming ceremony, which is pretty much like the way humans do the whole baptism of babies, but they've done a ceremony around that. And I'm told if you talk to a primatologist, people who study primates, of which mountain gorillas are and humans are, they'll tell you that yes, there's always a gorilla naming thing, but Rwanda has, which you never have here, but Rwanda has gone ahead to add value to the whole experience, probably knowing well that it's one of the few tourist attractions that they have. But if I were a filmmaker, I'll probably go and do a film in Rwanda on account to that. But I also want to credit government for highlighting the fact that we have snow at the equator by way of the Rwenzori ranges, and we have all these mountain gorillas and all that. But you need to create the requisite infrastructure. So in much the same way the president is always talking about building roads and building dams to facilitate the economy in terms of production, manufacturing and all that, you need to create the requisite infrastructure in regards to film. And the infrastructure, part of the infrastructure is by way of tax rebates. You have to have a tax rebate. Why Queen of Katwe stopped its shoot in Uganda midway and decided to relocate the shoot to South Africa, because South Africa was giving them incentives that would guarantee them making a saving of $1 million. If you're a filmmaker or a production company and someone is giving you an incentive that is going to make you save 4 billion shillings, believe you me, you're going to station a plane at Entebbe Airport and ensure that people fly to Joburg instead of shooting here, where you'll be expected to pay as you earn, NSSF, and that sort of.
Renowned American actor Michael Keaton once said that filmmaking is the ultimate team sport. But now both Ronnie's and Moses' arguments water down government's role as a team player in supporting film, mostly for tourism. But wait a minute, what could be the remedy to this problem?
Being part of the people who are at the forefront of seeing this change, I, like you said in the beginning, I'm president Uganda Film Council. So I also represent filmmakers on the National Culture Forum. The National Culture Forum is brought about by the National Culture Policy. So it has the different associations in the culture and creative sector. What we have proposed to government, and that seems to come to fruition, is we need a one-stop center. For starters, in the short run, we need a one-stop center where a person who wants to make film will walk in, and there's a desk for URA, there's a desk for Uganda Police, there's a desk for KCCA, there's a desk for the different line ministries. So including UCC, URSB, Ministry of Gender, Labor, so that I do not double pay any license. A couple of filmmakers tried to make films during lockdown. one is a documentary film. But you know, we had laws and curfew, all these restrictions,
Yes.
and you know, they're trying to highlight on what is going on. So they are also trying to empower the community on what they ought to do
very true.
to run
But
away
still
from
you're
the pandemic.
squeezing these people.
But still, you are squeezed that you don't even know where to go to. When they said that, you know, essential workers will continue working, how essential are those individual production houses?
Yet you're restricting them.
And yet you're restricting them.
Sure.
Because they tell you, people, the president was saying, you know, these media people will move the local TVs. Media is much more than that.
Very true.
You would come across some officers who would understand only the times when you are with crew. You know, you have a camera and then they will say, hey, ono munama ulire, and then they will let you go. But now what about the actor? What about the presenter?
Very true.
You know, they will tell you, TV yonga sijirabangako. These police guys don't even know how many televisions we have.
They don't
So they'll tell you, your TV sijimanyi, stuff like that. And it is so dangerous that when you don't empower these people, especially capacity building of everything, of the forces, of the powers that be, if you don't, you are endangering even our security. So I would end up and make logos of any other TV. I would say I would make a logo and ID, and I tell you I am a TV from Liberia. I mean, where is that database where I will know that TV exists?
Very true.
So you find a police officer in Magamaga. You know, where are you going? You say, no, I am from Liberia. What are you saying? This is my ID. You know, because they only know about CNN, Al Jazeera, and BBC, and here they only know about 5 of the stations.
Sure.
So we need that one-stop center where a person will walk in, get accredited, and then they go for shoots.
Very true.
There are those things, like I was telling you about how beautiful we are as a country, but there are those things that happen so fast. So for example, if you are taking a month or two to get me accreditation and permission to go and shoot, what would happen? Like the other time the president had to go to Pakwash and then watch the eclipse. It's happening. So we need such things that are going to give us chap results.
Oh, yeah.
It's what the other countries are doing.
Having in place a functioning copyright law and also fully defining the local content regulations bill by the UCC have for a long time been a query among content creators in Uganda. However, to the filmmakers, Ronnie says that only thing government owes them is policy.
I had an opportunity to talk to some of the people in government, ministers and everything. And there are things I've learned that I would want to share with the people out there. For example, the film industry is more private than public. What does that mean? It means that, yes, however much we want government to provide platforms for us, the only thing they owe us is actually policy and legislation.
You as the filmmaker.
We as the filmmakers, I wouldn't be trying to make a film every year if the copyright law was in place and working. People will tell you, you know, it is there. Someone was asking me, have you reported any people and they haven't arrested them? Maybe yes, maybe not. But why do I have to? So they need to implement these laws, the copyright law. UCC has a regulation, the local content regulations. Amongst them is that televisions must screen about 70% local content. Of course, there are the misunderstandings of what local content is, but within that specific book, local content is defined. So it's defined, and film is part of it, children content is part of it. I don't even know if these televisions we have here are screening children content. They barely do, and those that do restrict it to about 30 minutes or an hour on a weekend. So it is those things that are going to empower us. It is those things that are going to create a culture of people following and loving and
embracing our very own cultures through media and supporting local TV and film stars through promotions and advertisements is one other way to boost the industry.
We are going to create stars. If we create stars, they're going to be the great ambassadors If they are great ambassadors of the people, they are the people who are going to get the money and throw it back into advertisement. Why do we have to struggle and have to use foreign stars, celebrities, to market local corporate products? Why is it that, I mean, we run adverts and we don't even relate with the people?
Our very own.
Our very own.
Yeah.
We are running adverts without a gomesi, without a back cloth, without a
true.
dungu, without,
Very
they'll come and play guitars and everything. But then they will come and tell you, you see, the person I am using with a following on social media and everything. Yes, great, they have them. But because you haven't created the local style you want, that boy you always pass playing xylophones. If everyone follows that young man, they will end up following him on social media. You will want to use them to promote your local product, which is a good thing.
Very good.
I was disturbed when I last checked onto one of the airlines, and the things on board were not boo-boo. You know, when you talk to them, they will come and tell you, you see, but now when we come to you, you think we have a lot of money.
On why more international content gets more airplay than Ugandan content, Ronnie attributes this to the poor quality of locally produced content and also ignorance of local film producers about content rights and exclusivity.
We have, for example, a lot of content from South Africa and not so much from Uganda. I happened to talk to a broadcaster who explained to me that, look, the show we are showing you from Latin America, from Philippines, is showing in 34 countries. Even when the producer or distributor decides to sell that content, for example, an episode at $100, they have $3,200 for each episode. Now, to manage an average Ugandan 25 episode, 2 million. 2 million is so much dollars compared to the $100. $100 is about 400,000. So 2 million is about 500. Or slightly around there. About there. So this person needs to pay 500. But then he's getting 45 minutes for a South African telenovela at 100, 45 minutes. Now, the average you need is 500 to at least compete with the other. So these are business people, so they will end up going for the other. So what do? We improve our quality as producers so that we can break into different markets. We learn the idea of rights and everything, exclusivity and everything.
Very important.
So that you can sell to so many people. Literally, I make TV series, and I think I have never got a person who is paying me outrightly. I only make my money on the second, third, and fourth sales. So as long as this person can cover a bit of my production cost, I am okay, I am good. Now, how you negotiate all those other deals is also important.
Very true.
So you need to talk to people, friends who have done it, and then they will tell you, no, I mean, there are many more rights than having your film on DVD. There are DVD rights, they are broadcasting rights. Someone is just going to show your film on their TV and that's it. There are streaming rights. There are thousands of streaming platforms, SVOD. So all those rights. So we need to begin making money through that.
Okay. Lastly, on the other hand, according to Moses, the Uganda Communications Commission, the government body mandated to regulate, monitor and promote communication services in the country, has not done its job well, more so in regards to film, in spite of the body's efforts to even start the Uganda Film Festival with the intention of recognizing and developing the Ugandan film industry. In Moses' view, however, creating a film commission will greatly help to boost Ugandan film.
By way of the Uganda Film Festival, the issue I have with the Uganda Film Festival is, first of all, the entity that is running the Uganda Film, the entity that's running the Uganda Film Festival, that is the Uganda Communications Commission, I think doesn't have the competence to run a festival. They may think they have the legislative mandate to run a film festival or to sort of insinuate themselves into the film sector. But I don't think they have the requisite human resource to run film. So we need a Uganda Film Commission in much the same way Kenya has the Kenya Film Commission that runs every aspect of the Kenyan film industry, including the Kalasha, film market, and the Kalasha Film Awards. So we need a properly constituted film commission with people that are competent, that are competently knowledgeable about the craft that is film, not cadre employees who probably have a knowledge about the audiovisual sector but don't necessarily understand the whole thing that is film as a craft.
On using our own resources and talent to promote Destination Uganda to the world, Moses thinks that this shouldn't be hard, but rather government just needs to borrow a leaf from countries with already well-established film industries and bring that right back at home. Because we have the talent and a whole lot of interesting stories to tell.
What I would do if I were government, I would actually approach it from the perspective of Australia. There's a film called Australia, where the Australian government got two of their nationals that are big in Hollywood to headline, to sort of be the lead actors in a film that would promote Australia, the Australian outback, so to speak. Hackman and Nicole Kidman. We know these people as Hollywood stars, but they're actually from Australia. So if I were a government, I would actually quote Daniel Kaluuya. Find out of quoting Daniel Kaluuya. There was a Ugandan lady in Black Panther. I forget her name. I don't know if it's Kasumba or something, but I forget. I forget her name. So I would quote these two as leads, and then create a film around our folklore. I come from a generation where in P3 we learnt about legends. Chintu Wanambi, Nyinamwiru, Bukuku, Isaza, Ndahura, all those people, Jipiri and Labongo from northern Uganda, Mundu and Sarah from eastern Uganda, Mount Elgon and all that. So I'd craft a film around that. And then looking at the diversity that is Uganda. Each of these ethnic groups has unique cuisine, unique culture, unique music, and other things. So I'd craft a film around that, and then I would challenge our screenwriters to craft a script, around that, and then have these international, these stars coming in, But the other thing I would do as government is sort of empower the whole thing about storytelling. I want to imagine there's as many stories as there are Ugandans. That's 45 million stories. Everything from the recent COVID pandemic. You just have to watch the news, because every time I watch the news, I imagine half of what I watch in the news is actually a story that can be either documentary, or can be an animation, or can be a feature film. Look at Kalabanda. I don't know if you watch a film called Akalabanda 8. Yes, Akalabanda 8 ate my homework. In the West, they have this thing about, if you haven't done your homework, the excuse you can give is the dog ate my homework. So here, I'm thinking Akalabanda ate my homework. But if you've been to high school, there were always these tales about Akalabanda as sort of a mystic thing coming into your dormitory at night and that sort of thing. All those are stories that we can explore. The thing I've seen about most of our filmmakers is they want to go for the sad NGO. With all due respect, you can talk about defilement, you can talk about domestic violence, you can talk about, all those sad, stories. But at the heart of our being Ugandan, over and above our humanity, is we're really happy people. We have all these stories about Wagulu Dene, the Nanyini Buto, Emabega Yalide Sanje. Those, I think, are some of the stories we need to sort of start with, if anything, to counter, because when you go to the West, they have their Greek mythology, they have all these Roman heroes and all that kind of stuff. We need, and especially since I'm a Muganda, I want to look at all these Buganda stories that we read about, in school. Your Chintu Wanambi, your Mutesa welcoming, the missionaries, but even your slave traders coming in and all that. There's all these Buganda, and heroic stories that you can, even the Kabaka's coronation in 1993 happening for the first time since 1946 is a story in itself that the Buganda kingdom needs to tell. And then the other thing is we need to delve into our written literature, because right about now we have so many good writers that are coming up. People like Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. She's got a novel called Chintu, her first novel. She did a short story anthology called Manchester Happened. Every time I read Manchester Happened, I'm imagining any of those short stories can be a film. She's got a new book whose title I forget. So we need to delve into especially our oral literature and our written literature, and then see ways of telling these things cinematically. And believe you me, those are what are going to hold us in good stead, and not what I see as mostly poverty porn stories like the bulk of the films I watched this week during the Uganda Film Festival. Stories about defilement like you'd see in Monica, stories about domestic violence like I watched in Stain, last night. I want to also watch more films like Men in Suits, because Men in Suits is about the Uganda today, the hustlepreneurship, the whole thing about network marketing, wearing a suit and coming to you and talking you out of your money. But there's also that person making an honest living by running a Rolex stand, in the evening. Then there's that university student who, instead of paying their money for tuition, wants to invest this money in network marketing, hoping that it's going to come out, 100-fold. All those are stories that we need to tell.
In Moses' view also, if only government could establish a place like Jinja for a film city, given the rich history attached to this place, the many historic landmarks located here, not forgetting all the fun and recreation activities that Jinja has to offer. Activities like whitewater rafting, bungee jumping, to mention but a few.
Also find a way of ensuring that I get a space like Odeon Cinema in Jinja. Because there are three aspects to film. You do the scripts and you lay the foundation for how the film is going to be shot. Jinja is still a good place for that. I want to imagine the River Nile would provide great inspiration for anyone that wants to write a script. You're probably sitting on the banks of the Nile. You have these people, in a natural space that is the banks of the Nile, writing a script. But then there's the production bit. Jinja with its disused warehouses, would provide a good place for, doing sets. And 27 Guns was partly shot in Jinja. So was Last King of Scotland. It's a grid planned city, very well organized. There's not that much traffic, so you could easily cordon off a street, to shoot in Jinja. But even for post-production, all I have to do is ensure I probably have fast internet in Jinja, very quiet place and all that, and acquiring a space like the Odeon Cinema in Jinja, which used to be the go-to place for James Bond films and all that, knowing well that if I have a film, I am going to, sort of screen it in Jinja for a premiere. But also having Jinja and using it to leverage the whole thing about cities on the Nile. Because if I have my Jinja there, Jinja is the source of the Nile. It has now been declared a city. How many other cities are on the Nile? There's Juba, there's Khartoum, there's Cairo. At least I know that Khartoum and Cairo have very vibrant film industries. How about I get the filmmakers in these three cities converging at the source of the Nile in Jinja, and having this whole sort of like convergence of like-minded cinematic people coming to Jinja and giving this whole vibrancy to film work. You have these people visiting Jinja. When they come to Jinja, they'll explore the other activities in Jinja, everything from bungee jumping, in as much as that is not happening right about now. Whitewater rafting, I hope we won't be building any more dams that are going to, submerge the rapids. But even just doing a sunset cruise on the Nile, So imagine sailing underneath the new source of the Nile bridge. a James Bond shoot where a boat is either sailing beneath the railway bridge, or a boat is jumping over the railway bridge, or James Bond is scaling, the pillars on the Owen Falls Dam that is now the Nalubale power plant. Imagine James Bond or a stunt double scaling the pillars on the Owen Falls Dam and sort of probably getting himself into the gush that is the water spillage at the Owen Falls Dam. So that is why I'm so passionate about Jinja being a film city. In much the same way Cape Town has positioned itself as a film studio city where a series like Black Sails were shot. If I'm told these days, if you want something that looks like a European or an American city on the cheap and you can't shoot in New York or you can't shoot in London, you could easily go to Cape Town and convince people that this scene was set in London. Yeah.
Now, just as the government invests in putting up infrastructure like roads, dams and bridges, film also needs a fully set up requisite infrastructure, mostly in terms of legislation. And according to Moses, this will ease the work of filmmaking in Uganda. To the filmmakers, Moses urges that they get a requisite knowledge on film so as to produce films with coherent stories to show on the big screen.
Don't get me wrong. With all due respect to the government has always promoted this whole thing about infrastructure, so that the story is not just going to appeal to a certain section of Uganda, it's going to be a global story, So I want a global story where the Chintu and Nambi can compete with your Thor or Theseus and the Minotaur, or any of your Greek mythology, Medusa, stories. So let the people who are creating, the screenwriters, do their bit in regards to telling coherent cinematic stories, but then let the government also create the requisite infrastructure and not act like, because you see, the thing about this government is when it comes to a foreigner coming in, Econ is in town, they'll roll out the red carpet for that sort of person. But if it's a local person, that wants to do something that is going to benefit the government, it's really, really very hard. You're going to you're going to jump through so many hoops like you're a circus animal. Yeah. So let government stick to its infrastructure bit, create the requisite infrastructure, get the best practices from industries like South Africa. I don't know if I can use Nigeria as an example. I know Kenya is doing a good job. Rwanda is trying. But do what Hollywood does. You're just creating this infrastructure, create the requisite laws, create an environment where people can make money, from film. And then you, the content creators, the people who are going to go into this thing, please learn the essentials of the craft, tell cinematic stories coherently.
The Uganda Tourism Board is the official government destination market organization with the responsibility to promote and market Uganda as the preferred tourism destination in Africa. The organization is also responsible for regulating both the travel and tour businesses in the country. But despite registering quite a number of achievements in regards to marketing destination Uganda, the film fraternity, however, feels a whole lot more would be achieved if film as an avenue to promote tourism would be taken that much serious by putting in place requisite regulations by the organization in regards to film.
What Uganda Tourism Board needs to play is massive. We know they have had some engagements with a few filmmakers, with Uganda Communications Commission.
Oh, yes.
But they need to do much more than that. They need to meet most stakeholders, the National Culture Forum, the Uganda Film Council. There are massive, massive ideas. For example, they can tell you how hard it is to film, for example, from a game park. I have tried it. They will tell you how expensive it is. Yes. They may not deny you, but the conditions deny you.
Oh, yeah.
Rightly so is one, they will have to tell you all those rates in dollars. They
and
may,
yet you're native here.
No, they will tell you a camera is these dollars. A camera is these dollars. Then they will tell you, hey, how many people do you have? Technically, to make a film, a good film, you have a minimum of about 15 crew. So they won't be like, no, now because this one is just crew, so they will go with the equipment. Okay, now how many crew do you have? 12. Okay, how many are Ugandans? this number. How many are foreign? This number. Then they'll try to calculate all that.
Yeah.
And the process to go through, they will come and tell you, let those people come to us. Eh? Not every filmmaker has the esteem to come and work there. Create a specific desk for film tourism, a specific desk with clear rates and no, you know, we have seen your films. So you want to show? So they'll give me subsidized rates. That's good for me. So well, it's good for my production house, it's good for my actors. But if you want to do something good for the industry, create a specific desk. It will show our interest in film. Let someone walk there, they will know. If you need to film from a game park, these are the things you go through. This is how much it costs. It's hindering our co-production opportunities. Because in the countries we mentioned earlier in this interview, those things are clear. So a person can be on a desk, for example. I am making a co-production with a producer in Zanzibar. They will sit on a desk. They will know all these other things. If I want to film in Uganda, this is what I need. These are the rates at a game park. These are the rates at this. This is how much it is for this for filmmakers. This is how much it goes everywhere. So because co-production is about what are the opportunities, a person to accept a co-production will be like, if I'm going to co-produce with a Ugandan, what are the opportunities in Uganda? And me, what I'm looking at, what are the opportunities in the country of the person I am co-producing with?
Yes.
So for them, they will clearly show you the opportunities. For example, we don't have a film commission here. Tanzania has, Kenya has. They will literally tell you all this. For filmmakers, Uganda has none. I mean, a visa for filmmakers, Uganda has none. Of course, they will tell you, you go to Ministry of Gender, there is a culture desk, they will write a recommendation. How many of people know these things? So when you go and make these comments, they will say, you come to me, I will help you. We are past this, Ugandans. I mean, we are past, this one will help you, this one will know you. Let's have these things published. Let's have them everywhere. People are going to grab these opportunities. People are going to take away our opportunities. So we need to have that in line in the Uganda Tourism Board. Let's have a desk. Let this desk clearly tell us, for example, the things that they have power over. There's a film called 94 Terror. I was its production designer. Basically, production designers create the world where the film happens. We had to film it in Kasensero at the fishing site. Now towards Kasensero there's a forest reserve. You know, just to film from that forest reserve, we went through a lot. We had to first drive back to Uganda, go to next to UCC, there is a forestry authority. I mean, because it's not specific. I would have gone through all those basic things before I went to Kasensero. But then we had to drive back and go through all that so that we can have 10 minutes of our film done there. So if the ministry, if Uganda Tourism Board can help us with that, great.
Awesome. Availing itself in all aspects of filmmaking, that is, pre-production, production and the post-production stages, would also ease the work of filmmakers, leaving them no option but to make more film productions promoting the country.
The role of Uganda Tourism Board can be spread up across the three aspects of filmmaking. So from a pre-production perspective, they could create a conducive environment where we can tell our stories. I've talked about the Nyinamwiru, Amaverega Nyinamwiru story. If you did physical geography or to a physical geographer, those so-called Amaverega Nyinamwiru are just a physical geographical feature, stalagmites and stalagmites, I think, you know. But in Toro folklore, those are breasts that were chopped off a princess. You know, so you can imagine if the Toro kingdom were to leverage on this, you know, they have all these crater lakes, they have this Karuzika Palace. It's told from that perspective, and you bring in all this contemporary aspect of Princess Bagaya, or even the fact that we have the world's youngest monarch. How do you make that happen as a story from a pre-production point of view? Production. I've talked about Ginger City, Ginger Film City, the possibility of a Ginger Film City. Imagine having Ginger Film City as a film set, where I can cordon off a road, or I can use a disused factory as a film set, or I can use any of the attributes of Jinja City, the Nalubale Dam or the source of the Nile Bridge or the railway bridge, as a prop in my film. Then post-production as well. Cheap internet. I want to imagine. Remove taxes from computers like MacBooks, iMacs. If I want to use that, for post-production, that sort of thing. Then film promotion. Make this an attractive destination for people to showcase their films. In like the same way you have the Cannes Film Festival, because in May, the whole world is going to go to France. You know that in a certain month, everyone is going to go to the Venice Film Festival. In September, everyone is going to go to the Toronto International Film Festival, because people know that the Toronto Film Festival is usually the first stage of you. Especially if you have a film that wants to, get attention at the Oscars, I want to go to the Toronto Film Festival. So make Uganda that film destination where if I want my film to get the biggest attention, I am probably showcasing it in Jinja, at the Odeon Cinema in Jinja. And I have the Uganda Film Festival not as this thing where you have only 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people in a cinema hall, but you have everyone coming to Uganda, because in any case, our president is always talking about Pan-Africanism and all that. Let's pick perspective and make Uganda that whole Pan-African destination in much the same way you have FESPACO in Ouagadougou, in Burkina Faso. And that if you have a story, do tell it. Good thing these days is the technology is affordable, but get the requisite knowledge. If you're a screenwriter, please understand the grammar of filmmaking. If you want to be an actor, get into a master class online if you can't go to the New York Film Academy. If you're an editor, practice as much as possible so that you get that that bit of the craft right. If you're a sound scorist, if you want to be the next Hans Zimmer, get your musical knowledge on point. But keep doing what you do, because it's a craft at the end of the day. And the thing I know about a craft is usually a craft has an aspect of an apprentice learning from a master. So the more you do it, the better you get at it.
If you're government stroke Uganda Tourism Board?
If I was government stroke Uganda Tourism Board, I would ensure that the barriers to entry in regards to the film industry are removed. I would first of all investigate why Queen of Katwe relocated its shoot midway to South Africa. I would then investigate what South Africa is doing right, because South Africa has the whole tax rebates and incentives thing going. It's right on point when it comes to the continent, So I'd investigate why, when I'm watching Queen of Katwe end credits, the last thing I see is a South African flag and not a Ugandan flag, and ensure to making that right.
No one is going to come pull you out of that bed. This ball goes back to everyone. Let us embrace the new technology and use it to our advantage. Let us not cry about COVID. I don't want to catch COVID. I should learn what prevents COVID, obey by that, and then I should learn how to use that to my advantage. It is great we are working with this digital world, so I can reach every other person in their sitting room, in their living room, on your car, on your flight. If you want to make a film, start now. No one is going to come pull you out of that bed. Don't wait for Hollywood to get here. It may never, but let us create our own world. Let us create our content. Let us improve the quality every other day. I hope no one says, I don't understand. Watch Uganda, build Uganda.
To see more of this content, please check out my YouTube channel, give me a visit. Also, visit us on Facebook, give me a visit. Plus, you can also visit us on Instagram and also follow us there.